So first up, we have Graciela Lopez. Next, we have Iman Harris. Next, we have William Powell. Last but not least, we have Bianca Garza.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to Opportunity Home San Antonio's regular board meeting on Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026. Note, this meeting will be recorded in its entirety. I'll begin by conducting roll call. Chair Estrella Garcia Diaz.
Here.
Vice Chair Leila Powell.
Here.
Barbara Unkama Burford.
Here.
Janet Garcia.
Here.
Tanika Nikki Johnson.
Here.
Dr. Norma Martinez Rogers.
Here.
Kayla Miranda.
Here.
Doug Ponick, Board of Commissioners Attorney.
I'm here.
President and CEO Michael Reyes.
Here.
Additionally, there's a Spanish interpreter located at the back of the room should you need their assistance.
Bienvenidos a la Junta Directiva de Opportunity Home. Mi nombre es Jessica López Ricard y soy la intérprete en español. Si desea servicio de interpretación, el día de hoy lo tenemos disponible aquí en el fondo del edificio. Gracias.
Thank you. You may now call the meeting to order.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Board of Commissioners or its committee may hold a closed meeting pursuant to Texas Government Code 551-071-076 for consultation concerning attorney-client matters, real estate litigation, personnel, and security matters. The board or committee reserves the right to enter into closed meeting at any time during the course of the meeting. The time is now 1:09 p.m. We will move on to citizens to be heard. Do we have any signed up to speak?
Yes, we have 3 citizens signed up to speak. Please note, now is the time for citizens to be heard. Citizens will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. Each citizen will be permitted to speak only once. The board asks the public to address concerns related to Opportunity Home matters and policy and not include statements that may be considered defamatory of any individual. The board encourages members of the public to direct specific concerns or problems to Opportunity Home staff for more prompt resolution. The board will not discuss the comments of speakers or respond to speakers during the Citizens to be Heard portion of the agenda. Our first citizen is Richard Cantu.
Why did I plan to present a full speech today, but now have extra time? Because I already mailed the complete statement to every board member for transparency. How will I use these remaining minutes to ask the policies questions Opportunity Home has voted for decades? Why are worldwide pest control and fire truck treated as if they are more important than the elderly and disabled residents HUD requires you to protect under 24 CFR Section 5.703? How can vendors be prioritized over the very people this agency exists to serve? Why does Opportunity Home continue to renew contracts with vendors who repeatedly fail HUD's requirements for decent, safe, and sanitary housing? How can a vendor fail year after year, still remain on a payroll? Why is Worldwide Pest Control allowed to enter units and spray water instead of pesticides in direct violation of HUD's requirement for effective pest control measures? How is this considered treatment? Why does Opportunity Home enforce lease violations against residents but not against vendors who breach their contracts? How is this equal enforcement under HUD rules? Why does Opportunity Home interpret its own resident rights policies in ways to protect vendors instead of residents? How can asking questions, requesting documentation, or reporting ineffective treatments to be twisted into violations? Why is Firetram allowed to trigger chronic false fire alarms and repeatedly disturb elderly and disabled residents when HUD requires protection from repeated disturbances? How is that acceptable under any standard, any safety standard? Why is there a Firetron staff member sitting in the lobby just to deactivate the fire alarm system every time it malfunctions? How is it possible for Opportunity Home to allow our fire alarm system to malfunction since 2013, according to Fireman Lieutenant Watts, without fixing it or notifying residents? Why are vendors allowed to block fire lanes when city fire code and HUD's life safety standards prohibit it? How can a vendor be granted privileges that residents do not have? Why is this acceptable for Worldwide Pest Control technician to refuse to treat my unit simply because I asked him to verify the pesticide he was using when HUD requires transparency and effective pest control measures under 24 CFR Section 5.703? How is it acceptable that residents are charged a trip fee if they refuse treatment, yet a technician can refuse treatment to a resident without any consequences at all? Why are elderly and disabled residents forced to buy their own pest control products when HUD requires the landlord, not the tenant, to provide effective extermination? How can the burden be shifted onto people living on fixed incomes? Why does Opportunity Home ignore HUD's requirements for prompt and effective action when residents report infestations or safety hazards? How can delays measured in decades be justified? Why was a forgery involved my signature allowed to occur inside the federal funded housing authority? And how was Detective Cruz told that there was no surveillance footage when Opportunity Home's own policies?
Our next citizen is Mary Konechny. Mary Konechny. Our third speaker is Sebastina Martinez. Sebastina Martinez. That concludes our citizens signed up to speak.
Thank you. Okay, we have some meeting minutes to approve for the regular board meeting held on May 6, 2026. Is there any discussion regarding those meeting minutes? Doesn't seem like there is. So I will request a motion to approve the May 6, 2026 regular board meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a first, a second.
Second.
I got a first and second. If there is no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Okay, we will now move on to individual items. Item number 4, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6936, approving the consolidated operating and related capital budgets for Opportunity Home San Antonio and its affiliated entities for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027. Aaron Sladek, Senior Director of Finance and Accounting, and Priscilla Segovia, Budget Manager.
And Chairwoman, I'll go ahead and kick that off,
Okay.
if you don't mind. We're glad to present a $300 million budget for fiscal year 26-27. It's a large ask, so we're going to tag team it. There's 4 of us presenting, so it's a huge undertaking, but we're going to tag team it here. So I'll kick it off with a quick agenda. Just for background, we're going to talk quickly on accomplishments in this current fiscal year, which ends the end of this month. We'll talk about goals for the next fiscal year, 26 to 27. We'll talk about the funding environment, both the federal trends and what came out of the White House. We'll also talk about the actual budget, and that includes revenues and expenses, MTW proposed uses, and of course the staffing count and organizational chart. Just wanted to highlight a few changes, a few accomplishments in this fiscal year. There are many to discuss, but we wanted to just to draw attention to a few. One is the acquisition of the Amara Apartments. Those are the 308 units located near the rim, bringing affordable housing to an area that just had a handful of affordable units. And just to provide reference and context, the FY 25-26 goal was to expand housing choice and to acquire one existing property with continued affordability. We also partnered with the City of San Antonio, receiving $455,000 in home funds to complete construction of 11 single-family homes, with 4 homes being sold to families earning at or below 75 of the area median income. And again, just for context, the FY 25-26 goal was to complete the construction of 11 single-family homes. We also completed construction of Snowden Living, Palo Alto, Fiesta Trails, and Fiesta at Silver Oaks, adding 607 affordable units to the city. The FY 25-26 goal was to partner with at least one 9% tax credit and complete construction of new units, expanding housing choice. Public housing maintained a consistent occupancy rate of 96%. And actually, the exact rate is like 95.6, but we rounded up to 96%. And the FY 25-26 goal was to maintain a 95% occupancy rate. We successfully and fully implemented the safety and security grants with 13 family properties and 18 mid to high-rise elderly disabled properties, and added 399 cameras. The FY 25-26 goal was to provide crime control initiatives at 10 properties. We awarded a total of $389,560 in escrows to participants graduating from the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. The FY 25-6 goal was to graduate 25 graduates and have a minimum of $125,000 in grants. We equipped 135 residents with digital literacy and 129 devices through digital inclusion. And the goal for this fiscal year was to train 100 residents and devices to 75 residents. And then finally, the two accomplishments we wanted to highlight was, one, we finally secured our new credit rating through S&P Global Ratings. S&P allowing at least $200 million in new financing capacity. This is something that we have never had before, so it's a huge accomplishment for the organization. And the goal this year was just for the organization to provide new opportunities for affordable housing. This certainly is a large opportunity. And then finally, our goal this fiscal year was to launch our 501c3, and it's been launched. As of January 2026, we now have the Opportunity Home Community Fund. And with that, I'll toss it over to Ayanna to talk about our next fiscal year goals.
Thank you. Yes, so I will be presenting on the opportunities. So as we've entered into our new strategic plan, we have 3 overarching goals. Opportunities, which is our resident services, partnerships, and advocacy work. So we want to contribute to the affordable housing strategy to Project Marvel. We want to execute negotiations for the first ever downtown early education facility, secure new housing bond funding for repositioning efforts through the city, strengthen direct engagement with residents, community organizations, and stakeholders through continuation of town halls, policy briefings, and advisory boards. And we want to increase funding to Opportunity Home Community Fund, that is our 501c3, by $1 million. Under our innovation, which is our staff development, technology, and operational efficiency goal, we want to modernize our resident customer service, maximize participation and use of a learning management system or an LMS, develop a tracking and reporting system for strategic plan objectives, and implement organization-wide project management. Under housing, which is our preservation and development efforts, we want to begin executing the Housing Preservation and Development Strategy to include Rental Assistance Demonstration, or RAD. Submit our HUD application to receive a commitment to enter into Housing Assistance Payment Contracts, or the CCHAP, for the repositioning of HB Gonzalez. We want to continue building upon the existing $1.3 billion that we have in the pipeline for new construction and/or financing. Partner on at least 3 4% tax credit projects and at least 1 9% tax credit project, and to continue leveraging our newly acquired credit rating for the construction of new properties and the financing of property acquisitions. And with that, I will turn it over to Aaron Sladek.
Thank you, Ayanna. So this first slide here shows our federal funding trend, and this is going to be broken out into our 4 main revenue streams here. The first 2 are public housing, so we can see operating subsidy as well as our capital fund, and then the following 2 are related to Section 8 or Housing Choice Voucher, which are administrative fees, and our housing assistance payment subsidy. You're going to see reference to proration quite a bit at the bottom of the chart. So before kind of going through each funding source, I do want to refresh everyone or explain the concept of HUD proration. So when Congress does not appropriate enough funding to fully fund all housing authorities, they have to basically apply what's called a proration factor that reduces the funding for each PHA or public housing agency. So as a result, what we usually see is that housing authorities typically receive less than their full funding eligibility. So just quick examples, if we were eligible for $100 million in HAP subsidy and we received $95 million, it could be stated that we received a 95% proration. As reflected in those same notes below the chart, the Housing Choice Voucher renewal funding has generally remained near full funding levels, while the administrative fees and public housing operating subsidies have experienced lower or more variable proration rates. Kind of just to give some context to this slide, the Consumer Price Index was 3.8% measured year over year as of April 2026. So while operating costs continue to rise with inflation, HUD funding levels are determined by those congressional appropriations and program-specific funding formulas, so they do not automatically increase at the same rate. It'd be great, it'd be fantastic even if they did, but unfortunately that's not the case. So oftentimes we see that funding growth may not fully offset operating and capital costs in our programs. So looking first at the public housing operating subsidy, we did see pretty steady increases from 2023 through 2025. And then we're seeing a projected decline in 2026 of about 15%. This is driven mostly by the subsidy proration being 103% in 2025, and it has dropped to a projected 86% in 2026. So combined with those inflationary pressures, that reduction is going to create some additional challenges in public housing in both maintaining our operations and our service levels. Moving to the Public Housing Capital Fund, we can see that that program has remained relatively stable with only a modest projected increase or decrease, sorry, rather, of 1% from 2025 to 2026. It's nice somewhat to see somewhat stable funding, but that also, again, limits our ability to fully address our capital needs backlog. And also, again, in an inflationary environment, like we don't really want to see flat funding because that reduces our purchasing power, makes it more difficult to complete planned rehabilitation and modernization projects in that public housing portfolio. Moving to our Housing Choice Voucher administrative fees, those have also remained relatively stable. We're seeing a small projected increase of about 1.5%. But again, it's kind of lagging behind inflation, right? The projected funding is also at only 88% of our eligibility for 26. On the right-hand side of this chart, we can see the bigger item, which is our Housing Choice Voucher Housing Assistance Payment Subsidy. We can see increases there from 2023 to 2025, and then a small, less than 1% decrease in 2026. We did see those pretty big increases from 2023 to 2025 as a result of the post-COVID market conditions. And because these funding levels in 2026, I mean, they did remain high. They are still high, even though there's a drop from 25 to 26, they are still quite elevated because the Housing Choice Voucher renewal has typically been between 99 and 100%. It's usually fully funded. It's usually a high priority of the administration is to kind of keep core programs that at least in Section 8, public housing can go either way, but at least in the Housing Choice Voucher program, they usually try to fully fund it. So the key takeaway from this slide is that while that voucher renewal funding has remained relatively strong due to rising rental assistance costs, the other HUD funding categories have remained somewhat constrained or prorated. And with inflation in mind that continues to increase our operating costs, our capital costs, that gap continues to be something that we have to keep in mind when preparing the budget. And it really does reinforce both the importance of maintaining operational efficiencies and continuing to diversify our revenue sources beyond traditional HUD funding. This next slide is the 2027 President's budget proposal. So how this works is typically the staff in the Office of Management and Budget will meet with high-level officials in the White House and put together a preliminary budget proposal. The president kind of dictates what his high-level priorities are. So they will first issue kind of what their proposal is, and then from there, because this is discretionary funding, this has to be debated and deliberated, and ultimately Congress has to pass legislation in order to get the funding appropriated. So right now, we do have some information from the House side, but we have not seen any release yet from the Senate. The President's budget specifically includes $73.5 billion in gross discretionary authority for HUD. That's a 13% decrease from the 2026 enacted level. The White House presidential plan is proposing to eliminate major grants in the Community Development Fund and the Home Program. So those are combining for about an $8.3 billion total elimination of those programs. The Community Development Fund includes Community Development Block Grant funding, which we have been a recipient of in the past. So really that total slashing of those programs would have significant implications for local affordable housing development. And we can see on the right-hand side, the administration is continuing to prioritize core rental assistance. So public housing, we're seeing $8.6 billion proposal, which is a 4% increase on that front. That's driven by operating subsidies. They want to maintain the capital fund flat at $3.2 billion. On the House side, that was kind of the most significant deviation that we saw from them. The House THUD Appropriations Subcommittee, which is Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development, they get bundled together for their appropriations. They actually proposed in their markup, a 28.5% decrease in public housing capital fund. And we're, like I mentioned earlier, we're still waiting to see where the Senate aligns on that. So final fiscal year 27 funding on what funding levels remain uncertain. And then on the Housing Choice Voucher tenant-based rental assistance, just a small 1.1% increase there. Again, the idea is probably just to maintain existing assistance levels. This is a history of our housing assistance payment cost by calendar year. So we can see that over the last several years, how closely these costs have tracked post-pandemic rental market conditions. From 2020 through 2026, the average HAP cost per unit increased from about $639 to $936 per month. The steepest increases are in 2023 and 2024, as rents rose rapidly following COVID. This growth reflects broader market conditions in San Antonio. We're seeing population growth, low vacancy rates, inflation, and increased demand for rental housing. San Antonio is in the Sun Belt market, and rent growth has significantly outpaced historical trends during this period for that region. HUD also updates their fair market rents annually based on market data, and voucher payment standards will adjust accordingly over time. As a reminder, Opportunity Home utilizes 10 zip code-based payment standard groups to better align subsidy levels with local market conditions across the city. So this slide is very telling. We can see almost a $40 million increase over 4 years, $83.6 million in 2022 to about $121.7 million in 2026. And while rent growth has begun to moderate some, we can see actually a small decrease there in that second to last column of 1.74%. These HAP costs do continue to reflect those higher market rent levels. I also did just a couple days ago read an article that said that San Antonio ranked number 3 on the top 10 U.S. cities where the median rent is falling, and they stated a 5.1% decrease year over year. Here's our operating budget by cost center. This should look fairly familiar to the commissioners, as this is a similar format that I bring quarterly when I compare our actuals to our budget. So you'll see the same columns. We like to group the public housing, housing voucher services, affordable housing communities, or AHC, central office, and community development initiatives into what we call operations. And then the last two, real estate and capital fund, we sum those two and we dub that capital activities. So you will get update. I bifurcate that when I present quarterly. The only thing that might stick out to you is the second to last column, eliminations. These are always accounted for in the quarterly reporting. It's just because it gets to be a lot to look at. We just don't show it separately, but just know that eliminations are just an accounting convention where if this is a consolidated budget, so say public housing has a lease from real estate, well, one of those segments would record revenue, the other would have expense, and the accounting rules just dictate that you have to eliminate that, so you're not overstating either your revenue or your expenses. So that stuff has just been accounted for through that eliminations column. So looking first at revenue, we can see that the largest contributor is housing voucher services at $144 million. This is followed by the AHC segment at about $61 million. Public housing is also contributing about $42 million. Of that $42 million, about 68% is operating subsidy, with the remainder being the tenant portion of rent. On the expense side, we can see total operating expenses of about $246 million. The largest expense category, of course, is housing assistance payments, or HAP expense, at roughly $130 million, and that really just reflects the large scale of our voucher program. Other major operating expense categories include salaries and benefits, repairs and maintenance, and utilities across the housing portfolio. Looking at the core operating divisions, which again would be those first 5 there. So when looking at the subtotal operations column, we can see that the organization is generating approximately $13.7 million in net operating income before non-operating activity. The affordable housing communities portfolio is the strongest operating contributor. They are generating approximately $23.5 million in net operating income. That's supported largely by recent acquisitions, including Amara and the Hemisphere Apartments. Below that net operating income line, we do have some non-operating items: interest income, interest expense, non-operating adjustments, and our capital grants activity. The interest expense is primarily associated with financing for our AHC properties, as well as we're seeing an increase this year because real estate is now doing construction financing through the use of the S&P credit rating. So that is a little bit elevated, but there will also be more interest income because we are able to serve as that construction lender. And then on the surplus or deficit line, which is kind of the top line amount that I will report out at each quarter, we can see the public housing and community development initiatives are both projected to operate at deficits. And however, these shortfalls are anticipated within the budget, and they'll be supported through MTW reserves and capital fund program resources. So public housing, we'll see a breakout on a later slide, but the ask is going to be $9.2 million from MTW, and with the difference being the $3.4 million transfer from the capital fund program. And then CDI, the ask is $2 million even. And then after those planned transfers, the organization is projected to end the year with an overall net surplus of approximately $20 million. So overall, this budget reflects stable organizational performance, continued growth within the affordable housing communities portfolio and the agency's ongoing ability to leverage MTW flexibility to support mission-driven operations. This is just a visual representation. This is our consolidated sources. This will sum all revenue sources, both operating and non-operating. So we can see that those items total to $303.4 million. As expected, the largest funding source here is HAP revenue at $130.7 million. This is about 43% of our total revenue. Rental revenue, the second largest category, is $68.2 million. This reflects steady portfolio growth and stabilization. We also expect to receive about 35 million capital grants to support modernization, redevelopment, and capital improvements across the agency. Operating subsidy is $28.5 million. We did see a decline on that from last year due to the proration, but that does continue to be a key funding source for public housing. Administrative fees associated with Housing Choice Voucher Program projected at $13.6 million. And then those smaller categories you'll see there, that's kind of displaying increasing diversification in our revenue mix. So we do have some real estate activities, revenue, interest income, and then other grant funding. So overall, this revenue structure reflects a mix of traditional HUD funding and then increasingly diversified revenue sources, including real estate and other non-federal activities. However, federal funding is still about 68% of our total projected revenue. That compares to, I believe, about 74% prior year. And this slide here is the expense side of everything. So operating and non-operating expenses, about $294.6 million. The largest expenditure category, of course, is HAP expense at approximately $130.2 million. This is about 44% of total expenditures. The next largest category is salaries and benefits at $58.7 million. This reflects the staffing that is needed to support housing operations, resident services, voucher administration, development activity, and our central office functions. We also continue to make substantial investments in the housing portfolio through both capital grant projects and maintenance and replacement items. So those two categories combine for about $60 million, demonstrating the agency's continued focus on preserving our housing assets. Capital grant projects specifically support modernization and redevelopment, infrastructure improvements, while those maintenance and replacement items are more for ongoing daily property needs and kind of deferred maintenance. Our administrative and other operating costs are projected at $14.4 million, while utility expenses are projected at approximately $12.5 million. Interest expense of $9.1 million reflects debt financing for the AHC properties, as well as that new construction financing that I mentioned and the real estate line of business. And then insurance, that still remains somewhat elevated at $7.7 million. That's just what we're seeing affected by insurance companies for property and liability insurance nationwide. So overall, this expenditure mix demonstrates that the majority of agency resources continue to be directed toward direct housing assistance, personnel support, and long-term investment in housing infrastructure. And I would like to introduce Priscilla Segovia, our budget manager, and just thank her for all her hard work. She is the primary person that gets into all of the weeds with the different offices here at Central Office, and we appreciate having her talents here at the agency.
Thank you, Aaron, and good afternoon, commissioners. So regarding the 5-year capital plan for public housing, although our initial fiscal year ending 2027 budget projections were set at $17 million, an April 2026 update confirmed we actually received $17.2 million for the capital fund project grant. So for our proposed uses, the biggest item is the $11.3 million that is set aside for repositioning and backlog capital needs. The details for this are provided in your budget packet. For public housing, operating support, and administration, we are allocating the maximum HUD permitted use of 20% to public housing operations and 10% to program administration. And then the $200,000 per item for the remaining is for inspector salaries, professional fees, permits, and environmental reviews. This is our AHC 5-year capital plan. This one is more direct as the sources match the uses 1-to-1. We have about $8.7 million in city bond funding and MTW funds, which will be used for Ravello and Mid-Crown interior and exterior rehab. We have a congressional grant of $850,000, which will be used for Towering Oaks interior rehab. We have the Housing Trust funding of $650,000 that will be used for the Dietrich exterior rehab. And then we have about $10.4 million in reserves right now that we would like to utilize for 14 properties for various repairs. And lastly, we have about $7.1 million we would like to earmark for 5 properties that are unfunded. 2 properties that are unfunded. And those include $5 million for the rehab of Hemisview, which we will issue debt on, and $2 million for the foundation repairs at Woodhill that will be funded from their reserves. Again, the details for these property breakdowns are provided in your budget packets. These lists show proposed capital needs submitted during the budget season. Regarding technology, GASB 96, which relates to subscription-based information technology arrangements, or SBITAs, mandates capitalizing certain software with a term exceeding 12 months and costing more than $100,000. We have identified these software types with an estimated cost of about $945,000 for 5 items. Opportunity Homes capitalization threshold for other capital expenditures is $5,000 or more for equipment, and $50,000 or more for building and or improvement cost. We have listed these items with an estimated ask of about $711,000. This brings our total proposed request to approximately $1.7 million. For our sources and uses of M2W funds for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2027, we are projecting, as Aaron mentioned in the operating budget slide, $9.2 million is to cover the operating shortfall in public housing. $2 million is to cover the operating shortfall in CDI. The other $26.5 million will be used to cover the public housing repositioning investment of the MTW units and tax credit at the AHC properties, which are for 2 properties, and the matching of funds for the city bonds at Mid-Crown and Ravello. So our total ask will be $37.7 million for the fiscal year. This slide goes over our personnel count. In comparing fiscal years 26 to 27, we are decreasing by 18 positions. This reduction is a direct result of the ongoing organizational review process that commenced in June of 2024. Public housing is decreasing by 5 positions. This is a result of a portfolio reorganization that commenced this fiscal year and is ongoing. Established in 2023, the Operations Support Department has reduced its workforce by 8 positions as part of an efficiency drive. The remaining 37 staff members have been reassigned to housing voucher services and property management. This transition officially integrates these employees into the specific departments they served throughout their time with the Operations Support team. Real estate will remain flat, and then the balance of changes for the other 3 departments is related to the ongoing organizational review. An analysis of these staffing changes by department, along with a detailed staffing chart of each department, is included in your budget packets. This is our organizational chart. As you can see, it starts with the Board of Commissioners, then our President and CEO, all of our officers in the departments that they are responsible for. If you have any questions for Aaron.
I do have one question, and it's more about anticipated issues. I know we've heard a fair amount about HUD guidance on reserves. Do we have any more news on that, or any concern about federal guidance regarding, what I think of as our trying to maintain a safe financial position?
So,
Diana, if you can introduce yourself.
oh, I'm sorry, Diana Fiedler, CFO. I was expecting a formal notification to the executive directors of these MTW housing authorities. We have yet to receive any such notice. What we did receive from HUD was a standard 2026 funding notice for our Housing Choice Voucher Program. And what they included was a second tab, which had not existed before, that had a calculation of offset on it. And it indicated for this agency, no offset. So that appears to be very good news, other than the fact that there's been no official notification to each executive director. So good news, but I'm still just a little nervous. I don't know.
And Commissioner, if I can just add, the 2026 Consolidation Act was passed by Congress in, was it February, March? So it's only been 2 or 3 months. So usually it takes a time for us to get notified. So we anticipate getting that notification at some point.
Great, thank you.
Do we have any other questions for the team? Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes,
Before we
yeah.
take action, I did
Yeah.
want to make a comment.
Yeah.
I was very happy to see that although overall we've reduced staff, that we have increased staff in our service areas, the housing voucher service staffing, and then that's combined with, I think, the great news that we've been getting about the improvements in communications and in much higher percentages of satisfaction with our clients trying to reach us. So to me, this just paints a picture that we are being much more responsive to our clients. So I just want to thank the team for that.
Thank you, Leila. Okay, I will call for a motion to approve Resolution 6936. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
I second.
I have a first and second. There being no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Okay, item number 5, consideration and approval regarding resolution number 6937, adopting the Opportunity Home San Antonio Internal Audit Plan fiscal year 2026-2027. Allison Schlegel, Director of Internal Audit. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
There you go. So I'm bringing to you today the FY or fiscal year 26-27 internal audit plan for your approval. This slide just goes over the background regarding internal audit. Specifically, internal audit, we adhere to the Institute of Internal Auditors definition of internal auditing, Code of Ethics, and the international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing. Specifically, Section 9.4 of the Global Internal Audit Standards states that the CAE must base the internal audit plan on a documented assessment of the organization's strategies, objectives, and risks. Simplifying that just simply states that the standard requires an organization-wide risk assessment to be completed at least annually as the basis for the audit plan. So this next slide, we'll just go over. It just simply states that the risk assessment survey that was sent out, conducted, we looked at key variables assessed for public disclosure implications, increased senior management and or commissioner interest, internal and or external compliance requirements. And we also looked at the oversight provided by other entities, including independent financial and compliance audits, regulatory audits and reviews, and other third-party reviews. We also looked at the last time an audit was conducted for these departments. So the risk assessment implementation was an online form with an option for interviews for the participants. The risk assessment methodology focused on key variables, providing an option for no risk if the person taking the risk assessment identified no risk associated with that department. The outcome of the risk assessment was a 72% response rate from the individuals that took the risk assessment. The topics of interest from the risk assessment was the housing voucher services. It was for the waitlist operational efficiency and compliance. Procurement was the adherence to applicable policies, procedures, and regulations governing the procurement process. Development services and neighborhood revitalization is for the expanding the organization's supply of affordable housing. Public housing for outstanding accounts receivables. Affordable housing communities for outstanding accounts receivables, and housing voucher services for the termination reviews. The next highest topics came from comments that were provided in the assessment. So the first one was public housing. It was the waitlist, operational efficiency and compliance, risk management for internal and external compliance requirements, housing voucher services and finance and accounting for landlord payments, and then housing voucher services and public housing for reasonable accommodations. The topics of next highest interest that did not come from comments, but rather the actual risk assessment, was for partnership communities. It was for financial analysis and oversight of assets, strategy, data, and innovation for the strategic plan overview, human resources for compensation and staffing reviews, safety and security, it was for risk methodologies across site assessments, capital projects, it was the oversight of planning, development, design, and construction of preventative maintenance, and then capital projects for compliance oversight for green building standards and requirements. So with all of that, the proposed internal audit plan, for the first quarter, we're proposing to do the procurement audit for the contract awards, solicitations, bidding and vendor compliance, and safety and security review of contracted security services. For the second quarter, we're proposing the housing voucher services, public housing, and affordable housing communities, the waitlist operational efficiency and compliance, public housing and affordable housing communities, the review of accounts receivables. For the third quarter, we're proposing the housing voucher services and finance and accounting, landlord payments, and then the development services and neighborhood revitalization, review of timelines for expanding affordable housing. And then finally, the fourth quarter, the housing voucher services and public housing for reasonable accommodations, and risk management for the internal and external compliance requirements. We are also going to continue the compliance reviews for housing voucher services, formerly assisted housing program, affordable housing communities and mixed income, public housing, and then, of course, the FSS escrow disbursements and the DPY funding. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? No, thank you. Okay, so I will now, if there are no additional questions or discussion, I'll call for a motion to approve Resolution 6937.
So moved.
I've got a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a first and second. Since there is no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 6, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6942, amending the owner incentive payment policy for the Housing Voucher Services Department. Katie Tran, Assistant Director, Housing Voucher Services. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Katie Tran. I am the Assistant Director over Housing Voucher Services Department. I'm here today to present to you that Opportunity Home is requesting for your approval to update our policy for owner incentive program. To give you some context, in 2022, HUSH published PIH 2022-18, which allowed the use of administrative fee to fund for the landlord incentive program for Housing Choice Voucher and Mainstream program. The Opportunity Home implemented back in 2023 and ended in August 2024. We provided up to $500 incentive payment to both new and existing landlord. We assisted approximately 2,700 families while engaging 240 new landlords and 540 existing landlords. In early this year, HUD published PIS Notice 2026-01, which now allow us to use the administrative fee of under VASH program for again to incentivize landlord who lease to our veteran. The Opportunity Home is proposing an amendment to our current policy to provide incentive payment to up to $500 to new landlord who's established first-time HAP contract and lease to our resident. We also would like to move the section of the policy from SCV administrative section down to owner section of the policy. By doing this, it will allow us for all the program in the future if HUD is allowed. I'm sorry. In 2026, Housing Choice Voucher Services Department will use these funds to target only new owner who lead to our participant under VASH program. In the future, we plan to expand this under Housing Choice Voucher, who is new owner leads to our veteran. We currently applying for VASH for the additional administrative fee. We are waiting on the result that HUD will get back with us around July or August. The city is recently passed the ordinance related to VASH program, and by changing this policy will allow us to complement this ordinance. And that's all I have. Thank you. I'm here to assist any question you have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
The very last of what you said, will you please repeat that?
The last one I say is the city had recently passed the ordinance, which allow us to, related to HUD VASH program, and that the policy that we are proposing will allow us to continue issue payment for that.
Thank you.
You have a question, Leela?
Yeah, I just wanted to say again, it's exciting to see that we're working closely with the city and coordinating with them on policy changes. And I know this was a topic at City Council, and it's great for us to be responsive. They've been a partner with us on providing bond support for rehab for our projects. So I think that's a good sign.
And Commissioner, just for clarification, the city did pass the ordinance for the VASH veteran voucher. They have not passed any funding related to that. I think they're going to discuss that this summer. They're proposing $500,000. This $500,000 would match the allocation for a $1 million program to ensure that veterans and other voucher recipients have access to units. And so this is just to incentivize that and move that forward.
Even more exciting if we're leading.
Okay, any other questions? I do just have one request that once we go through voting and all of that is complete and we know where we stand with funding overall for this program, if we could have some metrics associated with it so that we know where we started and where we ended and whether or not it's a successful program to continue or to think about continuing this type of funding.
Absolutely, we'll do that.
Thank you. Okay, I will now call for a motion to approve Resolution 6942. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a first.
I'll second.
And a second. There being no additional discussion, I will ask for all those in favor to say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 7, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6946, authorizing the President and CEO to renew or place insurance policies for fiscal year 26-27. Jennifer Dominguez, Senior Risk Manager. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Board of Commissioners. So first, I wanted to make sure that we point out that the insurance costs are funded through our 26-27 budget that we're requesting. In addition to that, they're also through our insurance escrow accounts. We place insurance for the Housing Authority, of course, to protect Opportunity Home's portfolio and its affiliates. It is required by HUD that we have insurance through our lenders and such. So we make sure that we check off all those regulatory requirements as well. In February of 25, the Board of Commissioners awarded our contract to McGriff for our board of record, our broker of record, rather. And Susan Gola is here with us today, our broker. If you have questions for her later, she'll also be available for those. I just also wanted to make note that for 25-26 fiscal year, we did come to the board and it was approved for $7.9 million approximately, and you'll see it here on the premium worksheet, on the insurance renewal worksheet here as well. And this year, or for this fiscal year rather, we're asking for 8.3. Those premium increases are not actual premiums yet. We're requesting. We have not received all of our quotes to say what the placement is, but typically what we see insurance increases for are because of the market conditions, weather events, construction costs, rising property cost makes those property values go up. And we want to make sure that we are addressing all of that and that we have the right coverage in place. The market for liability and excess coverage has hardened. They're moving to tighter underwriting. So we were conservative with the budget to say, hey, we're asking for some additional funding here, but just proactively in the event that we do see these increases come through, that we're not caught off guard. Typically, we are working with our broker very early on for our renewal process. In March, we're doing our applications. In April, we're gathering all of our information, setting that to Susan and her team. We're reviewing the market trends, figuring out what is best placement for the organization and what strategies that we can implement. And then in June, we come to the board and we ask for permission to go ahead and look at those quotes, start binding quotes, and then coming back typically in August to say, hey, this is what we've placed. So you'll see here on the sheet where it says 25-26 actual premiums. That's what we came back to the board last year, and we're able to show what we actually placed versus what we requested. So at this point, we're in the process where we're requesting. We cannot get quotes typically until May or June timeframe. That's just how it works when placing insurance. So that's why we're here at this time of year. So we're asking for authorization to complete our renewal process. Brad McMurray, as well as Susan Gola, our broker, and I are available if you have any questions about that process.
Do we have any questions? I just have one, just so that I understand the different, or not the difference, but the impacts on market conditions versus any claims that we filed. What is impacting more the changes in premiums at this point?
At this point, it's the market conditions. We're pretty good in our claim history and how we're handling our claims. So that's not what we're seeing right now as far as increases because of that.
Thank you. No additional questions or discussion, I'm going to call for a motion to approve Resolution 69. Not on, sorry. If there are no additional questions or discussion, I'm going to call for a motion to approve Resolution 6946. Do I have a motion?
So,
I have a first and a second.
Second.
I've got a first and second. Since there is no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and thank you. Excuse me. Item number 8, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6945, authorizing the acquisition and sale of Hemisview Village Apartments. Bradford McMurray, Chief Asset Management Officer, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I just want to follow up on the insurance. you had a great question about the market conditions, and unfortunately for many affordable housing providers, the market conditions are getting worse and worse in insurance. And so the fact that we've got a great team putting this together and not having us have those same increases, it's increasing, but not to the exponential amount that others are. So I just really value the HAI group and our broker, Susan, and all of Jennifer's work. So I just wanted to add that. I'm here before you today regarding the Hemisphere Village sale. And you'll remember that that's the property that is across from the planned sports arena. Hopefully, that's going to be just an amazing project that continues the legacy of the San Antonio Spurs. We wish them luck tonight. But regarding this, you in March, you had previously approved our ability to go, or authorized us to go out and acquire the interest of the other entities that form up the Durango Mid-Rise Limited Partnership that actually owns the project. It's at the end of its compliance period, and so as we've done with other projects, we move forward with that. We had a little bit of a hiccup on this one in that we were under the impression that Walker Dunlop had acquired all of Alliant. Bank of America was the original tax credit equity provider, and then they were bought out by Alliant, and then Alliant was bought out by Walker Dunlop. And so when we go forward to acquire these other interests, and we've acquired the special, or the Class B special partner that was Carlton, and we acquired the Walker Dunlap, but when we were in the negotiations with the documents, we learned that one of the entities had been maintained by Alliant. And so that was a bit of a surprise, but we reached out to them and we met with them and we asked them, you know, if they were interested in selling and at what price. And we've never gotten a response. That was back in March. And since that time, we worked with our tax accountant and with our legal counsel and identified that because we had already acquired from Walker Dunlap the administrative limited partner and the investment limited partner, we had the ability to approve a sale ourselves without any input from the special limited partner that was Alliant. And so they were just really in it. It sounds like they were some high net worth individuals that benefited from taking the losses that they could, but they had no approval rights. They had no real ownership of the property, just got distributions of the losses. And so we thought about it and we said, if we acquire the property by a related entity for debt, it won't cost us anything and it will dissolve that partnership and thereby eliminate their interest. That's what we have before you today, is simply to take that action. It is in fulfillment of the earlier authorization to create it as a single asset entity and eliminate all the audits and everything else. But it's in a unique structure that allows us just to dissolve the partnership and move forward without any additional cost. And that's what we have for you today.
Questions?
I do have a question. So was the partnership or were the remaining units still returning a benefit to those high net worth individuals in the form of losses?
It's a little bit over my head, but I can share with you what the tax accountant explained to me. Yes, they were getting benefits. They basically had $24 million in losses that they could take. They had taken about $15 million, so they were willing to stay into it and then take it. And what is actually happening is they're able to, I don't know, it's a positive statement. They're able to use the losses against current income because they're investors, and they basically delay paying taxes till the very end. So they could have stayed in the project. They had no motivation to get out of it because they were at 15 million and then they could go up to 24 million in losses. When we paid off the bonds, then that actually reduced the amount that they had back down to about 15,000, or I guess it was 10,000, or 10 million, excuse me. So they were already over. So now they would not, to answer your question, be able to continue to take these losses. That's why we think they've just kind of ignored us. We basically gave them notice. We didn't want to do this behind their back. So about 3 weeks ago, we gave them formal notice. We did an analysis that identified, okay, there are some cash reserves and those kind of things, and they go through the disposition waterfall, and basically it illustrated you don't get anything. Yep. It gets used up before that. So I guess they're just moving on, and they've gotten their benefit, and they don't feel the need to acknowledge anything to us.
And they had no ability, because of their subordinate position, to stop the payment on the bond
That is
Which was the event that triggered their inability to take their full benefit from the investment, or from the loss.
Exactly, and that's our understanding from legal counsel, the way the document is written. We have all the power as the investment limited partner and administrative limited partner.
All right, thank you.
And just to confirm, there is no impact to residents with the changes that are being proposed today, correct?
That is true. Nothing's going to happen to them. However, with the MTW that we used, we did make, originally, it was 245 units, and then there was 49 units that were public housing and tax credit, and then another 12 units that were tax credit only. So basically, you had the 61 units that were affordable, and the remainder were market. With the addition of the MTW funds, we've actually increased that affordable number to 120. So it's not going to affect the people in place, but it has expanded the affordable housing downtown.
Wonderful, thank you. Any additional discussion or comments, questions? No? Okay. We will go ahead and move on to calling for a motion to approve resolutions, no, not 6946, 6945.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We've got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6943, approving the transfer of lands to the San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation. Bradford McMurray, nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Basically, this is something that, as I mentioned before, the HAI Group is an incredible partner. We benefit greatly from them, not only from their competence, but again, from the lower cost in our insurance. And so we work very hard to, as Jennifer and Susan work together to try to minimize claims, to educate and provide training so those claims can be lowered. And so we really like to keep our partner happy. As part of that, we have a unique situation where we act as the landowner and then lease the property to the particular housing communities to allow them to have 100% property tax exemption. Everything's great with that. But what it equates to is we've stopped using Las Vadas as the main entity for those partnerships. And so now we've got a few remaining. There's 7 that are listed up on the screen where Las Vadas owns the land. And what that equates to, there's no problem with that, but it means that we get a small policy of about $5,500 a year with HAI Group that results in actually every time we get sued, they have to hire an attorney, and then anything over our deductible, they have to pay for. And there's not going to be a change by transferring these to the San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation. We're still going to have the same need to defend if somebody slip and fall or something like that. But at the same time, instead of this little $5,500 premium with the large cost to the insurance company, it's now diffused as we move it into the much larger San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation premium and that policy. So it's just something that it doesn't really affect us, but it's to their benefit, and we're happy to comply with your approval.
Okay. Any discussion or questions? Thank you very much. I will call for a motion to approve Resolution 6943. Do I have a first? And a second?
Second.
I've got a first and second, and with no additional discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 10, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6947, authorizing the establishment of an individual relief policy for severe heat. Marissa Smithwick, Senior Director of Public Housing. Welcome.
Well, good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners, Mr. Reyes, staff, and guests. My name is Marissa Smithwick, and I'm the Senior Director of Public Housing. Today, I, along with Michael Levinson with Group 14, are going to provide you with a couple of presentations. The first one is on extreme heat relief. In 2024, HUD issued a PIH notice allowing public housing authorities to allow for an additional utility allowance for air conditioning. Previously, this allowance was not allowed, and so residents that were paying electricity and receiving a utility allowance did not receive this additional benefit. With the proposed policy, there's a definition on severe, what does severe extreme heat mean? And so for us, it's a range. We're using the adequate temperature range shall be defined as the ASHRAE standard, which are conditions, adequate conditions inside a unit should typically range between 72 and 76 degrees. We're in South Texas, so we definitely are going to be supporting this additional allowance for our residents. So what does this mean as far as residential impact and housing authority impact? And I am not. Yes. Opportunity Home will see an average 15% net increase in utility allowance valued at approximately $1 million across the public housing portfolio. So we're not going to see HUD reimbursing us that amount for another 18 months. So what does that mean? We're going to increase utility allowances for this allowance. And so because we're increasing utility allowance, that means the tenant rent will go down immediately after implementation. And so typically HUD allows for an 18-month true-up, but if we implement this, which we are across the board for those families that qualify, then we'll see that relief and that reimbursement within that 18-month threshold. So although we do recertifications annually, we're going to complete an interim certification so that we get that immediate relief for the residents and reimbursement within the 18-month period. On the next slide, you'll see an example for Alazon one bedroom. We do have a utility allowance. The new utility allowance is $123, which is an increase of $29 in the allowance, which means it's a decrease in the tenant rent. So you can see that increase goes up, tenant rent goes down, and so the immediate relief is going to be to the residents that receive this additional allowance. Do y'all have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So I'm in the room. I have no idea what a utility allowance is. Can you please break that down?
Sure. So HUD allows for housing authorities to issue utility allowances based on the utilities they pay for. So if you're in a public housing unit and you pay for electricity, keep in mind not all of our units residents pay for the electricity. But if you pay for the electricity, then HUD when they do their rent calculation, give you a utility allowance based on what you're paying. So it's supposed to help at least lessen the burden of paying that electric bill. So we've always had an electric allowance, but we've never had an air conditioning allowance. That additional allowance is going to help those families that are not only paying for their electric bill, but also that usage for the air conditioning. So this is an added benefit to the residents that HUD historically has never provided public housing authorities.
Thank you for the breakdown for those that are listening or watching that didn't know. So now my other question is how will you be notifying the families that do qualify that this is taking place?
Yes, ma'am. We will provide advance 60-day notice of the change so that it's provided to them with advance notice, and they're going to receive an actual rent calculation worksheet that's going to depict what their new rent will be.
Okay, so that'll be by physical mail, by email?
By physical mail.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I have a question as well. When will they be notified of the individual relief policy, of what's going to be happening? Because a lot of people want to understand the process, right? And obviously in their language. So before the intermediate recertification is happening, because there's going to be a lot of misunderstandings, right? So when do we plan to, as Opportunity Home, inform first of the changes that are coming before the changes happen? I would like to know like dates or like how it's going to roll out. And then another question is for the senior, for our senior population, are we going to be picking and choosing like our most vulnerable or just seniors or whoever just gets to apply? Like more of a plan of that way people know what to expect and they can be successful in applying and getting the same opportunity across the board as far as residents.
Yes, ma'am. So for the utility allowance, it's going to be applied for every unit that qualifies. So if you're a resident paying, you have an actual air condition in your unit, it's not Opportunity Home is paying for electricity and the resident is paying for it, then this benefit will be given to them. We are going to implement an interim change this month in the month of June. So notices should be going out July 1st with an implementation date of September 1st. So we're wanting the immediate relief for the residents, and so we're going to act as quickly as possible to make sure that those certifications are completed this month. Notices are provided. The notice will say that they're having a change in utility allowance. It's going to have their old rent, and then it'll have their new rent.
Another question, does it only cover the heat? Does it cover winter time, or is it just for heat?
This is just air conditioning.
Air conditioning.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there, I'm new to the commission and I want to ask the question, are these window units or central heat and air?
We have a mixture of central air and heat and window units. If they're paying for electricity and they have central air, if you will, they're going to see this relief because they're still paying the electric bill, but not getting that additional air conditioning allowance. So this will apply in either direction, whether it's central air and they're paying for electricity or whether it's a window unit and they're paying for their electricity.
Can I say it just in, Jose Mascoro, Chief Operating Officer. Just to say it differently, some of our properties are all bills paid. So the tenant doesn't pay our local energy provider, CPS, and they don't get billed. We pay for it. So those will not be eligible for this utility allowance. It will be those who actually receive a direct bill from the energy provider, CPS. Those are the ones who qualify for this, for a utility allowance. After this section, once you approve, hopefully approve, this to be added to our utility allowances, there's a whole other discussion on the overall utility allowances that are going to be provided that incorporate not just air conditioning, but electricity and so forth. And so that's another piece to the board meeting today that will be clarified in a moment. So I just wanted to add that overarching comment, but this is specifically to change and allow us to change our UAs to incorporate this new benefit with HUD.
How long do you anticipate this process to be completed?
We're going to be doing the interim certifications, the paperwork, the background paperwork for all of the residents that qualified this month. We'll send notice July and implementation will be September 1st.
Because, you know, this is going to be a very hot summer and I want to be sure that this doesn't become a health issue.
Yes, ma'am. We're going to implement as soon as hopefully the board approves it, our staff will start working on it so that we can implement the additional utility allowance as soon as possible. Thank you.
Go ahead. Just a question more on the budget implication for the organization. So knowing that we just approved the budget or did that a few minutes ago, and this could be an 18-month process for HUD to make sure that we are receiving in perpetuity the funds to offset the reduction in the rent that allows the resident to devote more funding to the utility bill. How will that show up on our budget next year?
I think it's going to show up initially as a loss before they true up. So HUD is typically 18 months behind before they true up. So in the immediate, we are going to see a loss because we're going to give that immediate relief to the residents. We feel that it's important. However, HUD will reimburse us for that. And so that's why we're trying to process them as quickly as possible so that we don't have to wait for their annual recertification and extend the period.
But we'll carry the loss for the next 18 months until HUD reimburses. I just was interested in how that shows up.
It'll show up in reduced revenues, reduced rental revenue. Mm-hmm. That'll go down.
And do we have an estimate for what we're going to accumulate over the next year?
It's approximately $1 million.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. I just wanted to lift back up what Commissioner Garcia asked, because maybe I didn't get a clear answer. I do understand that you're going to be sending out via mail the new rent form. Will there be time before you send this out explaining what's about to take place so there is understanding of what's happening, so your phones are not going off with people misunderstanding what they're looking at when they get that new rent form?
So HUD requires that we do typically a 30-day notice. We're doing a 60-day notice. There is a comment period included in that notice. And staff, we are meeting with staff to make sure that everybody is on the same page, that we also have monthly meetings with our residents, so we will also go over that with them. It is a definite added benefit for all of our residents that qualify, so we're excited about the opportunity to provide this to them.
So may I suggest in the wording, either verbally when you're educating or when you're putting this in the mailings, that it's stressed that it is an added benefit, because some people just will not understand the language, and you will get phone calls. There will be misunderstandings that you're increasing my rent. I can't afford a $25 increase, and you're saying, no, you're gonna get a $25 decrease, but make sure that that language is understandable in there. Not that our tenants don't understand, but language that we may discuss on a constant basis may be different when it comes down to them.
Most definitely. We'll go ahead and add it as an added benefit. It will also have their old higher rent, and it's going to show their new rent. So they are going to also see those actual numbers decrease as well.
Thank you so much.
I just also wanted to add once back again, like making sure that it's clear and that way we won't think our residents have the assumption, oh, well, this is added to my rent, I don't have to pay that portion, just to alleviate any misunderstandings, right?
Yes.
Obviously the volume calls, and then obviously the misunderstandings of the language.
No, we appreciate that. It's very helpful information. We'll make sure we take care of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Miranda? So when you say recertification, is this like where the residents have to bring in all their documents, et cetera, or it's just like, here's your rent change?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That's much easier.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, additional questions or discussion? Thank you all. I will call for a motion to approve Resolution 6947. Do I have a first?
So moved.
You got it. Do I have a second?
I second.
We got a second.
I second.
We've got a first and second, no additional discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, thank you. Moving on to item number 11, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6948, authorizing the revision of resident paid utility allowances. You're on again, Marissa. Okay, thank you for your patience.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and cover utility allowance updates. HUD requires a component of rent calculations that ensures tenants are not overburdened by utility costs when they pay their own utility bills. When determining utility allowances, both the number of bedrooms and other energy performance features of the unit are considered, along with CPS energy rate changes. Opportunity Home requires utility allowances to be reviewed annually to reflect changes in tariff rates, site conditions, and current technical guidance. Opportunity Home, along with Group 14, completed the utility assessment for this year's updates. And this page, I'm going to pass it to Michael.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. As the engineering company that updated and calculated the changes to utility allowances, one of the things that we took into account, of course, is changes in CPS and SAWS tariff rates. We saw a very slight decrease in electricity rates. We saw a very significant increase in gas rates due to changes in commodity prices. And then we have a slight change to the way we're categorizing refuse trash. We're moving that into the water and sewer component because that is where the trash bill is charged. So all of these changes are being included in the proposed utility allowance.
So Group 14 calculated utility allowances for 4,946 Opportunity Home public housing units using the HUD prescribed engineered calculation methodology. 3,797 units will have an increase in utility allowance at an average of 22% increase. They'll have an increase in utility allowance, meaning a decrease in rent. 1,149 units will have a decreased utility allowance, averaging 9.8% decrease. These residents will have a decrease in utility allowance and therein an increase in tenant rent. We did 2 slides, one for affordable housing and one for public housing. In the first slide, we're going to cover affordable housing. We gave an example of 2 scenarios. Refugio's 2-bedroom. They have a tenant rent of $500. The utility allowance before the change was $164. The utility allowance after is going to $135. You'll see that the net rent that the resident pays is going up in that scenario, a total of $29. In the next scenario for Converse Ranch, we have an increased scenario. The resident was paying $500. Utility allowance was $167, which is going now to $224. The second example shows a $57 increase in the utility allowance. And in that scenario, the tenant rent is going down. On the next slide for public housing, we also have 2 examples showing you the decrease and increase scenarios. In the first one, we have a resident paying $500. The utility allowance was $122 and going to $111. The new rent would be $389 with an increase totaling, with the decrease totaling $11. Alazon 2-bedroom, we have $500 rent. The old utility allowance was $90. The new is $146. They're going to have a significant decrease in tenant rent of $56. So as we stated in our prior presentation, we will be issuing a 60-day notice to the residents with their new utility allowance adjustments and their new and old rent amounts so that it's specific for them. If we give them one utility allowance statement, it may be confusing. So what we're doing is giving them specific amounts with their old tenant rent, their new tenant rent, and the effective date of said change. Do you all have any questions?
Do you have a question, Commissioner Garcia?
Is this within the HUD guidelines of like their rent? Because now I'm like thinking in consideration of senior citizens that are on a fixed income, right? And that they obviously cannot attain. They're seniors that are on $338 a month, right? And so are we considering and on a line with the HUD's?
So these are all based on HUD requirements. So HUD requires the housing authorities to complete a utility allowance assessment annually and to implement the change if there's an increase or decrease of 10%. So this is a HUD mandated requirement, and so Opportunity Home is falling within those parameters.
So a resident is not allowed to opt out if it has to be mandatory.
Yes.
Correct?
If I could add one last thing. Most of our senior properties are all bills paid.
Oh, okay.
Most of them.
Thank you.
You know, if they're at a senior living at one of our family sites, they may not have this an all bills paid property, but most of our high rises and the like for seniors are all bills paid.
Additional discussion or questions?
I do have just a point to think about. It strikes me that as we make our properties more energy efficient, which is the right thing to do, that we will also be raising rents at those properties. Because we'll be reducing the need for the utility payments by the tenants. I'm not arguing this is a bad thing. It's just that, overall, the cost to the tenant should remain the same because they should have lower energy bills. But the visible impact is going to be, we retrofitted your building last year, and therefore your rent is going to go up.
I will add, and then I can have Michael add. HUD's providing the utility allowance, which is based on kind of the norms of the unit and so forth. But that's not the reality of what the resident's paying. The resident's paying what their electric bill is. And so the reality is these energy efficiencies that we're putting are going to decrease their bill that they're paying. So I understand on the tenant rent portion, there is some anomalies that are out there. But for the most part, all of these energy efficient equipment that we're putting in are going to inure to a lower electric bill.
I wouldn't argue with that at all. I just think it will, that a tenant looking at that might not necessarily see that it was an investment by the housing authority that allowed the lower electric bill. So just thinking about the messaging or the discussion around making the units that we do own more energy efficient and more comfortable. I know that a lot of the energy efficiency upgrades that we're carrying out are just making units more comfortable, and I think that's important. That's an end in and of itself. So.
I guess the only thing that I'll add is the entity that does the calculations. The updates to this resident paid utility allowance don't involve any energy conservation measures, but with a future board item with the energy performance contract, you're exactly right. That's the dynamic that will happen. When we do these calculations, we are very conservative in nature, so that the hope is that while we're operating within HUD guidelines for how the load calculations happen, that the residents do realize a more significant benefit than the adjustment of the utility allowance.
Commissioner Miranda.
So I'm really just clarifying what's already been said. If there is energy efficiency, we are the ones calculating the cost of what utilities is?
That is correct. So for this particular board item for the resident paid utility allowances, we are actually just documenting the existing conditions as they are right now. And we are the ones, as your third-party provider, who are calculating that.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Not speaking for the whole board, just for myself, I guess in a moment, it's like processing. Are we doing a catch-22, right? The question is the train of thought supposed to be that this will balance out if they're paying less in utilities, that amount will switch over to the small increase or whatever the increase would be in rent?
No.
Because I understand we do want to lower utilities and we want to make the apartments cooler.
Right.
We are in South Texas. We're like really close to you know what. So I know we want to make it cooler, but the possibility of a $5 increase even could send a family that are trying to figure out how to buy medicine or buy groceries or pay for this or pay for medicine. $5 increase may be a lot. So ma'am? Or put gas. Yes. So is the train of thought that this is going to balance out? I see a no and a yes.
Do you want?
Yeah, let me just answer. Okay. Yeah, as mentioned earlier, the thought is it will balance out, but that we're creating more energy efficient units as well as we move forward. But the thought is yes, we talk about specifically someone's rent being lowered, and as you know, we talked with Commissioner Powell a few minutes ago. It is a balance, and a lot of this is around the messaging, so that household may still be paying the same amount of money they are towards rent and utilities, but we're still operating with a more energy efficient unit, whether you change the UAs or not. So there's the idea is that there will be some level of a balance.
Okay. And I believe it was you, ma'am, that mentioned this is a HUD thing. If it is over a certain percentage, it has to happen. I think that's going to be very important in your messaging, because if not, it looks like this is something that Opportunity Homes or public housing is doing, and it's against the tenant versus this is something that HUD is regulating, if that makes sense.
Yes, and typically when the notices go out, it's going to have a cover, it's going to have detailed explanation on the process, and then the secondary page will cover their exact tenant rent, the old and the new. So we're going to make sure that the messaging is as clear as it can be. And I appreciate the fact that you understand too, residents and especially our elderly disabled families are going to have questions. We are meeting with the management staff. Most of them have gone through this process before, so that they're able to explain to the families too that come to them, not just by phone call, but in person, and explain to them what the letter is and how it impacts them. So we definitely will take that opportunity to meet with those families as well.
Yes, messaging is going to be incredibly important during this process. Thank you so much.
Okay, are there any other questions or discussion? Okay, I will move for a motion to approve Resolution 6948. I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a first and second. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion is approved and passed. Thank you. Item number 12, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6938, authorizing a ratification of the contract for lead hazard removal at Alasana Apache Courts. George Ayala, Director of Procurement, Marissa Smithwick, Senior Director of Public Housing.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today I'm here to present 4 items. The first one is ratification, Resolution 6938. As you mentioned, ratification for award of the lead hazard removal at Alasana Apache Courts. This particular award is, as you know, the Alasana Apache Courts is one of our oldest and largest public housing communities, being of 685 individual dwelling units. To address deteriorated lead-based paint and ensure a safe environment for our families, we require a professional certified by the state of Texas in lead removal and disposal. The scope of this project is extensive. It includes removing lead-based paint from entry doors, interior and utility doors, casings, frames, ceilings, walls, and window assemblies. We will also be removing and replacing screen doors and interior rails. One of the things I wanted to note that Opportunity Home, because this project encompasses the removal of lead, we are working with management to coordinate the temporary resident relocation where necessary to ensure that our residents are safe and are comfortable while the work is underway. With regards to the bidding process, we issued an invitation for bid in March 2026 and directly solicited 324 vendors, which 44 of those vendors were considered document takers. After the conclusion, we did receive 3 bids, although one was considered non-respondent because they failed to provide a bid bond, as indicated in the solicitation. We evaluated the remaining 2 proposals based on price, vendor reputation, past performance, quality, and long-term costs. At this point, staff is recommending the contract to be awarded to Gerloff Company Incorporated because they provided the lowest cost and to safely complete this project. The contract is for the project term of 120 days, and it's not expected to exceed $1,069,805.16. This includes a base bid of $891,504.16 and a 20% contingency of $178,301, which will only be used if additional work is necessary. This project is entirely funded by the 2024 lead-based paint grant. And just as I mentioned, this is a ratification we're bringing to the board. This was previously approved by the president and CEO under the authority for HUD housing-related grants over $250,000 that was given to him, but under Resolution 6932. This authority allowed us to lock in the vendor and move forward immediately, and we asked the approval today to formalize that action. Any questions?
I have one question.
Absolutely.
Is there any special licensing required for a contractor to carry out this type of work, lead-based paint abatement?
Yes, ma'am. So not only do the actual prime contractor has to be licensed in the removal of lead abatement, but also the entire staff on premises has to be licensed as well. We typically work with our project manager to make sure that this is verified, and also with our consultant as well.
That was going to be my question, to make sure we'd verified that licensing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional questions or discussion?
Okay. With no additional comments, I will request a motion to approve Resolution 6938. Do I have a motion? I have a first and a second.
Second.
I have a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 13, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6939, authorizing contracts for plumbing and related services. George Ayala, you're still up.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have the Resolution 6939, as you mentioned, which authorizes the award of contracts to plumbing and related services. To properly maintain our properties, Opportunity Home requires reliable on-call plumbing vendors to handle maintenance and repairs on an as-needed basis. This contract covers our entire portfolio, including multifamily and single-family properties, single-family homes, and our commercial or administrative buildings. With regards to the procurement process, we issued an IFB in April 2026, reached out to 344 vendors, out of which 30 of those vendors were document takers. We did receive 4 bids, and 1 was marked as non-responsive. Those bids were evaluated, the competitive bids were evaluated on purchase price, reputation, and quality of past performance. Because of the massive scale of our housing portfolio, staff is recommending a shared award to 3 lowest responsible bidders to ensure that we always have capacity. Those vendors are First Aid Plumbing, AC Plumbing Services, and Raging Bull Enterprises. The contract is structured for an initial 1-year term with the option to renew for up to 4 additional 1-year terms. The estimated annual expenditure is not expected to exceed $3,350,000 and will be funded appropriately through the property operating budgets, the capital fund program, and any available reserves. Any questions?
Any questions? No, it looks like we have no questions or discussion.
I will ask for a motion to approve Resolution 6939. Do I have a first?
And can I get a second?
Second.
I've got a first and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 14, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6944, authorizing a contract for Highview and Linda Lou roof and window replacement.
Okay.
You're up.
Okay. Just to let you know a little bit about this project, this is a fantastic capital project funded entirely by a HUD congressional grant, specifically the community project funding that was recommended by Congressman Cuellar. This project will deliver identical, much-needed structural upgrades to 2 of our communities. Highview Apartments, which was built in 1976, features 68 single-story duplex units. Linda Lou Apartments, built in 1971, consisting of 10 single-story units for our elderly and disabled residents. Both of these properties will receive full replacement of their roofing systems, new gutters and downspouts, new blown attic insulation to improve energy efficiency, comprehensive non-destructive window replacements, and exterior wood trim repairs and painting. With regards to the solicitation process, we issued an IFB in March of 2026 and directly solicited 624 vendors, which of those, 84 were considered document takers. We received an excellent competitive responses with 12 separate proposals. Following an evaluation, we evaluated the price, reputation, and quality of the past performance. Staff is recommending the award to go to U.S. Home Roofing and Exteriors, LLC. They are a certified Hispanic underutilized business, which were they were the lowest responsive cost to complete the work. This project has an estimated cost time frame of 120 days from the notice to proceed, and a flat cost is not to exceed $1,452,000. And again, this is covered by the HUD Congressional Grant. And Mr. Martinez is here in case you do have any questions regarding the process.
We have one question, Commissioner Johnson.
So can you clarify, you keep saying document takers?
Yeah. So we actually use a software called Bonfire. Not only do we have our registered vendors, but we are also able to tap to any national vendors that have registered with other agencies. But we typically have a large number of people that we send out these solicitations. So one of the things that we previously were made aware of is that we have so many vendors, but we receive so few responses. But the document takers number is just the people that actually downloaded the solicitation. So that kind of gives you a better idea. You know, like we did solicit to this amount of vendors. However, only 84 were able to reach it, and that's how we come up with the number. So it kind of looks better for us, like saying, like giving you that number for you to have some context behind it.
And then last question, I think it will be for the gentleman behind you, the process, the vetting process. So are these companies being checked out to see if they've had complaints sent against them to the Better Business Bureau? Are we going through a lot of reviews? Are we getting referrals from other places that they have worked with when it comes to like these windows?
Yes, ma'am. So basically, whenever we do any award, we do due diligence. We check our SAM.gov website, our DBARD website from the state of Texas, and the federal DBARD as well. We also check the Better Business Bureau, as you mentioned. We do Google searches to see if there's any litigations that we can find, and like just general searches. So we do this kind of things, and that's done before we actually bring it up to the board.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I have a question as well. And so my question is for the residents, as far as the roofing systems of the upgrades, what does that affect on our residents since it is 120 days, expected 4 months? Like, what are our plans on that? Or if you can clarify what the full replacement of a roofing system would be like, if that's like the whole.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I'm Hector Martinez. I'm Senior Director of Construction. Capital Projects Division for Opportunity Home. I oversee our construction department and our sustainability. This project, so to answer your question, Commissioner, we're going to be tearing off all the roofs down to the roof decking. We'll be inspecting the condition of the existing roof decking. We'll be replacing, as you say, there's a 20% contingency that was added. That's for unforeseen conditions. So we can't see what's underneath all the roofs until we start taking them off the buildings. Anything that we see, encounter, we'll document, we'll capture, we'll make sure it's properly addressed and repaired. And then we go back with a very high performance roof underlayment, which is going to be underneath the shingles, which gives it a air tightness and another level of protection before we put the final shingle on top of it, that whole system. We make sure in this process we provide any proper attic venting that may not exist. So this will provide proper cross ventilation. And then finally, we have a stout gutter and downspout system to capture any rain runoff. So this will affect the residents in a couple of different ways. First of all, we make sure that we give plenty of notice, and notices are distributed well in advance. HUD requires a minimum of 48 hours. We'll try to do about a week or more before we do anything that'll disturb the residents. And what they'll be noticing is there'll be a lot of traffic. There'll be extra cars on site from workers. There'll be some staging areas set up for the contractor to stage their equipment, stage their containers, any of the material that they have. So we'll be taking a part of the site for that. The most intrusive thing they will encounter throughout this project is when they're actually putting the new roofing on. There's not much you can do for noise as you're hammering new roof shingles onto a building. And so it's going to be quite noisy. It's rather unavoidable. But I think at the end of the day, they'll have a waterproof roof. The building will perform better energy-wise. It'll look much better. These windows, by the way, we're replacing. We have a method in Opportunity Home where we replace windows non-destructively. So when we replace a window, we're not tearing out any drywall inside the apartment. We're not tearing out any brick or siding on the outside. And they get a brand new window which performs and functions as a whole new window. It affects the energy performance, the quality of life because it's less noisy with sound transfer. And new windows and a new roof can make a building look brand new. And so there will be some, actually we're going to install new blinds. Window treatments are part of this project. So we'll be inside the apartments. We'll need them to cooperate as far as securing any high value items, any pets, and then moving any furniture or belongings that are in the way of the windows. So they'll be disturbed in that regard. Our experience is people are mostly very friendly, easy to work with, as long as we give them enough notice. They appreciate the improvements and the investment into their buildings. And as George mentioned, this project is entirely funded by Texas Representative Cuellar's office, and we're so very appreciative of that.
Thank you. That clears my concern because I'm thinking over here, oh, do they have to be relocated for this to happen? But now it just reminds me what was done at Casiano. It was really well done. The windows came out beautiful. So
thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
Any other questions, discussion? Okay, thank you. I will now call for a motion to approve Resolution 6944. Do I have a motion? I have a first and a second?
Second.
I've got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item number 15, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 6941, authorizing contracts for disaster restoration and emergency recovery services.
So good afternoon again. As you all know, as an agency, we are prepared for the unexpected. We require a contractor that's available 24 hours a day, 365 days a week, a year, to respond to immediate and catastrophic events. This contract provides us with the turnkey mediation and reconstruction services for fire, smoke, and water damage, water extraction, HVAC decontamination, microbial remediation, and full demolition and reconstruction if needed. To expedite the procurement process, we ensured that the state compliant we ensured state compliance by competitive pricing. We are leveraging our interlocal purchasing system cooperative award, known as TIPS. As you all might know, HUD strongly encourages housing authorities to use cooperative agreements like this one to simplify the procurement process of goods and services. TIPS acted as the lead agency, government agency in competitive bidding and awarding these contracts, which satisfies our local procurement requirements and allows us to access pre-negotiable favorable terms. At this point, staff is recommending that we award 2 vendors for this contract. It is BMS CAT LLC and Gerloff Company Incorporated. We're asking for a 1-year, initial 1 year, with the additional of 2 1-year terms options. The contract capacity is set for an annual amount not to exceed $10 million. I do want to emphasize that these funds are typically funded through insurance proceeds or available reserves, meaning that that this is a contingency contract. We only expend these funds if the disaster occurs and if the insurance claim is filed. Any questions?
Do we have any questions or discussion? No? Okay. I will go ahead and call for a motion to approve Resolution 6941. All those, sorry. Do I have a first?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
I've got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. We will now proceed to discussion items. Number 16, update and discussion regarding energy performance contract, Phase 3. Hector Martinez, Senior Director of Capital Projects Division.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to present this item for, this is an update, not an action item, on EPC. EPC stands for Energy Performance Contracting. This is a really innovative financial tool where a housing authority is allowed to invest in energy conservation measures, and we are those energy conservation measures provide energy improvements in electricity and water at our EPC sites that we've chosen. And so far, all of our EPC has been in public housing. And this is done through financing, so it's not any grant funds from the federal government. And so we initiated our first EPC back in 2014. Was really nice is you have to establish a baseline method for how your buildings are performing before you go in and install these energy conservation measures. And a lot of them are rather simple. It's screwing on of faucet aerators to lower water usage, changing toilets to lower flow toilets, putting in more energy efficient light bulbs. That's a big chunk of what we refer to commonly as the low-hanging fruit in energy conservation measures. We have a contract in place that's HUD required that every year we do a quarterly measurement and verification. So every quarter, our contractor, which happens to be Group 14, will perform a measurement and verification, and they'll analyze usage, and once a year they'll come out, they'll walk the sites and give us an M&V report, and it just reviews how the EPC program is going. And so I'd like to reintroduce Michael Levinson. He's our EPC consultant. He's been involved in EPC for the entirety of it. Michael flew in from Denver, and we appreciate him being here. His colleagues, his sub-consultants are our CISIC group. Mr. Richard CISIC flew in from Philadelphia. These guys are about as expert as it gets around the nation in all things EPC. And as you already saw, they're experts in utility allowances as well. So I'll turn it over to them to discuss this in more detail.
Thank you, Hector, and good afternoon again, commissioners. As Hector mentioned, Opportunity Home has had 10 years of successful EPC programming. We've saved over $12 million in electricity, natural gas, water, and sewer costs. We've invested over $7 million in capital improvements in public housing. A big chunk of the difference in those savings has also contributed to increased operating funds for Opportunity Home. As we save more energy than we predicted, we get to secure that in the operating budget. On an annual basis, we're saving about $1.2 million per year compared to those baselines that Hector mentioned. In 2014, we did our first phase. We did a lot of the lighting and low flow water fixture measures, as well as some other items. In 2021, we expanded the program. We made a lot of capital investments into new windows, heat pumps, boilers, exhaust fans, rooftop solar, as well as the lighting and low flow water fixtures. The EPC is a budget neutral program. That's one of the reasons why HUD likes it. It is financed by Bank of America, your program here, and then all EPC costs are covered by increased subsidy from HUD that is tied to the savings. Because we've been in an excess situation, we're saving more than we projected, then some of that excess also flows as an operating fund benefit for Opportunity Home. we're really excited to look at a Phase 3 opportunity for the Housing Authority. This project is probably going to be between $5 and $6 million. It will have a financing term that lasts till 2036, which is the full 20 years that's allowed by HUD. The funding source will be increased EPC subsidy from the savings that is frozen-based add-on and resident-paid utilities. We are expecting that from the Phase 3, we'll be going from an annual utility savings performance of $1.2 million to $1.6 million. So hopefully securing about an additional $400,000 in savings per year. The measures that we're looking at are 4 measures. One, we are going to be increasing comfort for residents by weatherizing 1,860 units. Most of this will be through increased attic insulation, but also through weather stripping and other measures. That particular measure will qualify for a very significant CPS energy rebate. Because this is being paid for by the EPC, we are not utilizing that rebate to help pay for the construction. So that $900,000 will flow back to Opportunity Home to support other activities for the Housing Authority. I personally am really excited about our second measure. We're going to be adding central cooling where currently we only have window units at 2 sites. And so these are going to be ducted air source heat pumps, and this will provide much more comfortable cooling at these sites. This is kind of piloting a technical approach of going from these window units to a ducted system. So we'll be doing this at 2 sites. And then we're also going to be using the EPC to address some water leaks that have sprung up at a few of the sites, prioritizing the 6 sites where we're noticing the highest increase in water consumption. We just want to give you kind of a forecast of the EPC development activity and when we anticipate being back in front of the Board of Commissioners for additional requests or education. We are currently out for a general contractor selection to help us price and then eventually would be considered for award to install these measures. Those bids are due this month. With that information, we will have what we need to package this up for the HUD Energy branch to submit that at the end of this month for their review. We are anticipating HUD approval by October of 2026. And then contingent upon board approval of a couple of different items, we would be looking at financial closing at the end of this year and then construction in the first 7 months of 2027. I just wanted to reiterate that at this point, there is no obligation for the Housing Authority and Opportunity Home to move forward. Once we have HUD approval, we will bring action items back to the board to look at an award to the general contractor and approval of the financing. We really want to make sure that we have HUD approval first before we ask the board to consider those items. And I want to open it up for questions.
Do we have any questions or discussion? No? Okay.
I would like to, if I may, introduce my department's sustainability staff is here with us today. And they're in the room. I'd like for them to stand and be recognized. Led by Michael Lopez, is a construction project manager, Isabella and Vidya Dari. They've worked so hard and done a lot of the legwork to get us here. And they're the ones that actually go out in the field and make a lot of this stuff happen, and we just really appreciate them.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to say congratulations on this. It's really good work. And, you know, there is a little bit of concern, like when we do the conservation, that the rent would change for tenants. And, you know, of course, I agree 100%, $5 is a lot for a tenant. But when you take into consideration, like, my specific unit, I have a 3-bedroom. My utility allowance currently today is $107, but my bill's $250 to $300 during the summer. Like that $5 difference it's not. No, like it's much more useful to me to have a $100 difference in that $5 difference. So congratulations, it's amazing work.
Thank you, Commissioner Miranda. I want to add, this is a non-action item, but the action item for this will be coming to the board later this summer. As Michael mentioned, we were out for bids. I believe the bid closing was today, actually. And so I look forward to reviewing those bids. We'll make a recommendation and hopefully be back in August with a contract to implement the EPC Phase 3.
Thank you so much, Hector. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you.
And we will now move on to the President's report. Michael?
Great. Chairwoman and Commissioners, I'd like to begin by highlighting last month's graduation of 27 participants from our Family Self-Sufficiency Program, or what we call FSS. For the most recent graduating class, which spanned from December until May 2026, nearly $400,000 in escrow funds were distributed to residents. The FSS program helps residents pursue long-term goals related to education, employment, financial stability, and personal growth while providing guidance and resources along the way. While participating in the program, residents have purchased homes, earned degrees with certificates, advanced in their careers, and successfully increased their household earned income. Many balance work, family responsibilities, and personal challenges while continuing to make progress toward their goals. I want to once again congratulate our graduating class and also recognize our Community Development Initiatives team and resident services staff for their hard work in ensuring the program's success. Resident engagement also remains an important part of strengthening our communities and maintaining open communication with residents. Our resident advisory board members gathered at our central office boardroom, this room, on May 22nd for their quarterly meeting and discussion with senior leadership. The meeting included updates on our strategic planning initiatives, repositioning efforts, and ongoing work to preserve public housing communities. Members also received an overview of proposed plans involving vacant scattered sites and also infrastructure improvements at Lincoln Heights Courts. The session continued earlier. Conversations focused on resident engagement and representation, including how members share information with neighbors and gather feedback from their communities. Just as our residents continue reaching important milestones, our staff also continue demonstrating a strong commitment to service across the organization. We've met our colleagues earlier this board meeting when we took a group photo, but I wanted to acknowledge them individually. William Powell is a maintenance technician at Cottage Creek. Iman Harris is a resident service specialist in our Community Development Initiatives Department. Bianca Garza, a manager with our Housing Voucher Services, and Graciela Lopez, a senior client service specialist in our Public Housing Department. These recognitions reflect the strength of our workforce and the culture of service and accountability and teamwork that advances our mission each day. And I'm grateful for their contributions and proud that they serve as an example for us across the organization. Moving on to events and activities, we welcome mothers and mother figures from across Opportunity Home communities at our Opportunity Home Park, which is located right behind our building here, on May 8th for our annual Mother's Day celebration, an event dedicated to appreciation, connection, and well-deserved self-care. Residents enjoyed wellness activities, a free clothing boutique, community resources, and a resident fashion show that brought energy and encouragement to the event. The program also included a resident poetry reading and live entertainment from a Selena tribute artist, Amanda Solis. So I want to thank the Community Development Initiatives team once again, and staff volunteers and community partners who helped make the celebration possible. And we have a quick video recap of the event to show you.
Let her feel love today in ways that are very specific and personal. Have a happy Mother's Day, all of you.
It was a great event. I want to thank our chairwoman for providing really inspiring remarks during her welcome remarks, so thank you for participating in that. Also, building on these efforts to promote resident well-being, communities across Opportunity Home also participated in Mental Health Awareness Month activities throughout May, focused on emotional wellness, self-reflection, and community engagement. Activities included guided discussions, wellness exercises, opportunities for residents to spend time together in supportive environments. At Fair Avenue Apartments, one activity featured journaling and positive affirmation exercises focused on personal growth and self-worth. These efforts continue to reinforce the importance of caring for our residents' overall health and well-being while creating spaces where they feel seen, valued, and encouraged. We also continued our efforts to strengthen community understanding through our Housing Power Hour series, which returned on May 29th with a session focused on public housing and Opportunity Homes Moving to Work designation. The discussion brought together community stakeholders and partners for an overview of how our public housing program operates and how the MTW flexibility helps advance local strategies to improve operations, expand housing opportunities, and promote resident self-sufficiency. I want to thank the Government and Community Affairs Department for coordinating the session. And finally, we have some upcoming events I wanted to highlight. On June 19th, we're going to be closed for the Juneteenth holiday. On June 20th, we'll have our Father's Day Fiesta. It'll happen right in the park behind this building, and you all are invited. It's also a good time. Not as fun as a Mother's Day event, but it's still a good time. Then on June 22nd, we'll have our Housing Power session. It'll be on the affordable housing communities. And our affordable housing communities, as you know, is our mixed income, mixed finance portfolio. And then, of course, on July 3rd, we'll be closed for the July 4th holiday. So, and I also want to make a note that we won't have a board meeting next month in July, and we'll reconvene in August. And so, Chairwoman, that concludes the President's report, but if I could, I'd like to turn it over to Muriel for a quick special announcement.
We have some birthdays, and we want to celebrate them. Commissioner Nikki Johnson, Commissioner Kayla Miranda, and Commissioner Barbara Akama Burford. So, if you will join me, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear commissioners. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, I turned it off and on. The buttons are getting me today. Before we recess for the nonprofit corporation meetings, I'd like to introduce and welcome a new board member, Commissioner Dr. Norma Martinez Rogers. Welcome. We look forward to working with you and doing great things. I said we look forward to working with you and doing great things to move the organization forward.
I look forward to working with y'all also. I actually grew up my early years of my life at the Alasan Apache Courts on 309 Veracruz Street. Still remember it.
Okay, thank you and welcome. I will now recess for nonprofit corporation meetings from the regular board meeting and enter into the Las Varas Public Facility Corporation and San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation meetings. The time is 3:18 p.m.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Las Varas Public Facility Corporation meeting. Please note that all commissioners remain in attendance. You may call the meeting to order.
I call the meeting to order at still 3:18 p.m. Do we have any citizens to be heard?
There are no citizens signed up to speak.
Okay, having no citizens signed up to speak, I will move on to approval of the May 6, 2026 Las Varas Public Facility Corporation meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes at this time? No? Having no discussion, I ask for a motion to approve the May 6, 2026 Las Varas Public Facility Corporation meeting minutes. Do I have a motion? I have a first. Do I have a second? I have a first and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We will move on to consent items. Are there any questions or discussion with regard to consent items numbers 4, consideration and approval regarding resolution 26 LVPFC-0602, authorizing the acquisition and sale of Hemisphere Village Apartments. And consent item number 5, consideration and approval regarding Resolution 26 LVPFC-06-01, approving the transfer of lands to the San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation. No questions or discussion. I call for a motion to approve consent items 4 through 5.
So moved.
I've got a first. Can I have a second? I've got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. I will move to adjourn if there are no objections. Hearing no objection, the meeting stands adjourned at 3:20 p.m. Okay, we will now proceed to the San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation meeting.
Good afternoon, welcome to San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation meeting. Please note all commissioners remain in attendance and you may call the meeting to order.
I call the meeting to order at still 3:20 p.m. Do we have any citizens to be heard?
There are no citizens signed up to speak.
Having no citizens signed up to speak, I'll move to approval of the May 6, 2026 San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation meeting minutes. Any discussion regarding this item? Having no discussion, I move to approve the May 6, 2026 San Antonio Housing Facility Corporation meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a first and a second. I've got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We will now proceed to consent items. Are there any questions or discussion regarding consent items 4 and 5? Okay. Having no discussion, I will ask for a motion to approve consent items numbers 4 and 5. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I've got a first, and do I have a second? First and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. And if there are no objections, I will now move to adjourn the meeting. Hearing no objection, the meeting stands adjourned at 3:22 p.m. The board will now return to the regular board meeting, and I will call it to order at still 3:22 p.m. And now I would like to move into item number 12, closed session. Legal counsel, will you read us into closed session?
Yes, ma'am. The board will be convening in closed session under sections 551.074 and 551.071 of the Texas Government Code to consult with the attorney and consider the president and CEO's performance, review metrics, expectations, and deliverables. The time is 3:22.
The time is 5:09 p.m. and the Opportunity Homes San Antonio board meeting is adjourned.